10-Minute Jazz Lesson Podcast, episode 145. Hey everybody, welcome back to episode 145 of the 10-Minute Jazz Lesson Podcast. Hope you're all doing well out there. My name is Nick Manella. I'm the creator and host of this show. And if you are new to the show, welcome in. We are so glad to have you here. If you're one of our many returning listeners, welcome back. Very glad to have you in for another short and concise jazz lesson that will hopefully benefit you on your journey to being a better musician. So just a reminder to everybody, you can get all the PDFs to all 145 episodes that we've ever done by going to our Patreon page and pledging the measly amount of only $3 a month. That makes a huge difference to us. So if you're somebody that chooses to support us, thank you so much. You can get there by visiting our website, 10minutejazzlesson.com, clicking on one of the Patreon links and showing your support over there. We have some brand new people to welcome to the family this week. Thank you to Carl, Carol, Hugh, Will, and I'm totally going to mess this up, but Tsuyoshi. Thank you to everybody that has joined up with us this week, and we hope that we can continue to deliver these materials week after week, year after year, and keep you going on your path to being a better musician. Now, one thing that we do on this podcast is we stay away from advertisements. So these Patreon donations are really the only way that we keep this show going. So if you've got that $3 a month and you appreciate the podcast, please jump over there and join the almost 200 people that are helping us out each and every month. I can't tell you how much I appreciate it and how much it allows the podcast to keep going. All right, let's jump into today's episode. So this week we continue our series on chord extensions, and this week we're going to be looking at the minor seventh chord and talking about the acceptable extensions over this chord. And I'm going to actually give you two exercises to work on this week, and they're going to be a little bit varied from last week. One thing that I'm going to try to do is give you a bit of a different way to think about these exercises from week to week, so that it's basically not just the same episode, but talking about the different types of chords. So let's talk about a minor seventh chord. What are the acceptable extensions on this particular chord? Well, if we look at it, what we want to use is the 9th, the 11th, and the 13th. Now, over a minor chord, it's a little bit funny because a lot of the times we talk about the 13th as actually the 6th. This is just one of those chords where it's known more as a 6th because it is actually used in the middle of some of those voicings. So just know that you might not see 13 written all that much when it comes to a minor seventh chord. You may see it notated as 6, but then again, it's just the same note. Right? So let's take a D minor 7 chord, for example. So we're going to go up 1, 3, 5, and 7. So D, F, A, and C. And then we're going to play those extensions. So then we're going to include E, G, and B. Now, going back to our discussion from last week a little bit, we talked about how the extensions are really where a lot of the triad pair material that you hear so much about is derived from. When we take these extensions, we typically tend to get a complete structure from the 3-note extension, typically some type of triad. Now, that's no exception on the minor 7th chord. What we actually get is a minor triad based off of the 9th. E, G, and B make an E minor triad. So it's kind of nice. As we practice these extensions, we also get a little bit of triad pair work built into it. So if you wanted to use a triad pair on, let's say, a D minor 7 chord, you could use a D minor triad and an E minor triad. That's a great triad pair to think about, and it all just comes from working on these extensions. So as I said, the exercises are a little bit different this week. So what I've done for the first exercise this week is actually going all the way up the extension 1, 3, 5, 7, 9, 11, 13. And then I want you to actually come back down. This is a great exercise that sort of stretches your knowledge a little bit more, because if we only think about things as we did last week, just going up and not coming back down, well, then our playing tends to be a little bit heavy on the ascending side as opposed to the descending side. So this week I want you to go up and come back down, which you're going to notice is going to be a little bit more tough. So before I play this, let's talk about the 11 real quick, because last week we talked about how we don't use the natural 11 because on a major chord, what that does is it kind of muddies the waters. We don't want to use a note that's a half step away from the major third because the major third defines the chord. On a minor chord, we don't have to worry about that because now what you have is a whole step between the natural 11 and the flat third. So you'll notice that these exercises are completely diatonic, meaning that it's going to stay 100% in the key that we're starting in, not really in the key over the chord that we're playing over. So you're going to stay completely 100% inside that D minor 7th chord, to use the first example. Now, I have written these out in all 12 keys. You can start by looking at them, but pretty quickly I want you to stop looking at them and maybe use a worksheet that just has the chord symbols written down, because we do have to have this stuff completely under our fingers and in our brain. But let's check out what the first exercise sounds like. So this is all the way up to the 13 and all the way back down on each chord. And so on and so forth through all 12 keys. So that is written out for you on this week's PDF through all those keys. Now, the second exercise that I have prepared for you this week is the same notes. It's still all the way up to the 13, but now we're actually going to do it in triplets. So it's very important when we practice this stuff. Once we start getting used to it, we want to develop some rhythmic variety. That is so important in your practice, because if all you do is practice eighth notes or all you do is practice quarter notes, you're going to get stuck in that mode. What you practice is eventually what you play, right? That's something that I think is probably obvious to most of us. So if all you're practicing is the same rhythm over and over and over again, you're only going to play the same rhythm over and over and over again. So one of the things that I like to do in my practicing is be creative with my rhythmic composition of whatever exercise I'm practicing. So if it's something simple like this, where we're just using the same formula, I will bring it through a whole bunch of different rhythmic derivations so that then I have some flexibility when I want to play it in real life. So this is the exact same exercise, but I'm doing it now in eighth note triplets. And this is the second exercise on your PDF for this week. Check it out. So completely different, right? Just because of the rhythmic change. And that's really what we are looking for. We want it to sound different without actually changing the harmonic structure of what we're playing. We're just going to line it up differently with a different rhythmic scheme. So get to practicing this stuff as well. If you know all the chord tones and all the extensions, you know the entire scale, but just in a different order, and this can really benefit your vertical playing a little bit more. And we want a healthy mix of both of those things. So next week we're going to do a lick of the month episode, and then we're going to do a tune of the month episode, and then we're going to come back to this series, and we're going to start taking a look at the dominant chord, kind of the mother of all chords. We're going to take a look at what the chord symbol actually does to the extensions. We have talked about this stuff in the past, but we're going to look at it through a different lens in a bit of a simpler way. And I think this is going to clarify a lot for you. But remember, get on your major chords, get on your minor chords, start practicing those extensions. And we're going to close out this week's episode with, again, a little bit of playing just over the chord progression of all the different minor chords. And try to use some of these extensions just to hear what you would sound like in action once you get a little bit of experience under your belt with this stuff. So thank you to everybody that's joined up for the Patreon. These are really useful exercises, so if you want to get your hands on them, remember, head over to our website, 10minutejazzlesson.com, and get on the Patreon site, pledge $3 a month, and you get all of this stuff. All right, everybody, thanks for tuning in. We will see you next week with some new episodes. Talk to you soon. Bye.